Joyrides with me aren't fun? Joyrides to where again? Life needs a little mystery, Chloe.
Dog, this shit is boring as fuck. This video's gonna take so long to make. Man, I am all life estranged out. The only thing worse than playing this game is making this establishing shot for a game I'm not even playing right now, just so I can do it for a funny joke at the beginning of my video for Splatoon 2. What do you think, Splat Tim?
What's wrong? You stupid really saying swear to God. Yes, the school ain't yet able to relax.
Wait, hold on, shut up. This is the origin of Hella right here. You gotta see this. You gotta see this, man.
You're hella mysterious, Chloe Price. Hella? Who says that? It's a Cali thing.
Peak gaming right there. Peak gaming. What? Yeah, I think I need a palate cleanser. Wait, what's that, Tim? I can't hear you over the fact that I'm playing a single player and multiplayer game that is all about kids playing paintball, but also has the intricacies of genocide and race war in a Nintendo game. That's not a joke. I like Splatoon. I think it is a pretty cool series. But if you watched my video on the first Splatoon game about a year ago, you already know that I never got the game despite being one of the only 10 people in the United States to actually own a Wii U. And even after getting in a rush to play it after the servers shut down, I still thought Splatoon was a game that, while absolutely overloaded with fun and creativity, was held back by design decisions that limited that fun and creativity. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I think I need a little bit of palate cleanser after that Life is Strange video last time. So, what do we get into something a little more simple with Splatoon here? What do you say? So going back to 2017, I was kind of done with Nintendo by the time the Switch was announced and coming out. I was not interested in getting one of these things. I thought the idea and the concept for the console were really cool, but in a post-Wii U world, I didn't have reason to believe the Switch would end up any differently. I was burned bad. I was like, they're just gonna fail. They're not gonna listen to fans again. It's just gonna be like the Wii U. It's gonna have all these freaking shitty Yoshi Woolly World and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash bullshit. I have no idea if those games are actually any good or not, so don't hold me against that. Point being, my whole mentality at this time was, if I got burned as badly as I did by buying a Wii U, who's to say it wasn't gonna happen with the Switch again? Well, here we are years later, and I think the Switch's success kinda speaks for itself. You could argue, oh yeah, it's pretty funny in retrospective. Pfft, you didn't believe in the Switch? No, I didn't. Dude, I bought a Wii U. You think I was gonna buy another Nintendo console after that? I think the Switch refocusing on having very quality games, especially within the first year, definitely helped my interest in eventually buying one a year later. Super Mario Odyssey had come out. Kirby Star Allies was the first game I got for the console. There was more on the way with games coming out like Bayonetta 3. Fucking Metroid Prime 4? And even after all of that, I still didn't initially get Splatoon 2. I got a PlayStation 4 in 2017, so my focus at that time was just catching up on everything I missed out on thanks to investing in a Wii U. There's no bitterness there. It's not like I wasted my time getting that console. It's not like there were so many games in that generation that I completely missed or skipped out on just because I bought the console. I'm not salty at all. It's not a problem. It's totally fine. When I got the Switch, it was mainly there for the first party stuff and for when the games I actually wanted would eventually come out. I don't think any of us anticipated it would take this long for them. Like, Metroid Prime 4 taking so long, it's probably going to be a launch title for a Switch 2 is kind of crazy. Hell, I'll believe that game actually exists when it's actually in my hands. But still, there was never anything that quite grabbed me when it came to Splatoon 2. It just looked to be more of the same as the first game, with some touch-ups and quality of life improvements here and there. I mainly thought it was just an opportunity early on for Nintendo in the console's lifespan to get people on board with Splatoon that missed out on it on the console, whose only real exclusives at this point now are... fuck, I don't know. Devil's Third? Sonic Boom? Let me tell you, that is a killer exclusive lineup for a console. I mean, who wouldn't want a console where the only exclusives are fucking Sonic Boom and Devil's Third? In the year of our Lord 2025. The turnaround on Splatoon 2 coming out was pretty fast. Like, fast enough I couldn't even really find anything about this game's development. Just that it was made alongside Splatoon 1's updates, which, you know, I think we can naturally assume that. I guess there probably wouldn't be that much that I could have discussed in the development portion of this anyways, considering the quick turnaround this game had and how quickly they marketed and released it. I'm talking like very quickly too, like Nintendo was insanely desperate to move on from the Wii U, man. It really says a lot that the console's first year had one of the best Mario and Zelda games ever made, and the rest of its first year was nothing but immediately capitalizing on the audience that missed out on the Wii U as much as possible. Dude, they wanted to throw this in the trash. They wanted to forget about this console. But not without at least giving people the games they potentially missed out on. And between that and Splatoon's rising popularity as a mainstay franchise for Nintendo, I think it was pretty smart to have Splatoon 2 come out as early in the console's lifespan as it did. Now, I didn't own the game, but that doesn't mean I didn't play this game, because I did play it very, very casually, just borrowing a copy from my brother who owns the game at the time. And my memories were that I thought the game was solid, but still had some glaring issues, so I never got super invested in playing it. I enjoyed what I could play when I was actually able to play what I wanted. Sound familiar? Yeah, we're gonna get into that. You know, ultimately, I mean, this is still a review. I'm still asking all the yada yada questions, like, is it worth it playing now? Is it worth getting now? All that. And if you never played the first Splatoon game, a lot of this is probably pretty fresh to you. You know, like those two characters in Splatoon that always say "stay fresh." What are their names called again? I think their names are called Hatsune and Miku. I think. Yeah, that's basically it, right? Right? And for those of you who have played the first game, I think you're going to be experiencing a lot of deja vu, and if you've played the game, you obviously know that to a certain degree. And I think that's for better for the game, and also for worse. But let's just get into it. Let's just start talking about the game. Just like the first game, we got an appetizer of a single player once again, and with a foundation like Splatoon 1, you might be wondering how they plan to expand further on the single player portion of the series. Let's start with story. You're recruited against your will by Mary of the Squid Sisters on a mission to save the Great Zapfish, the source of the Inkling's power. Your mission is to get out there, stop the Octarians. Wait, is this the first game again? You're recruited against your will by Captain Cuttlefish on a mission to save the Great Zapfish, the source of the Inkling's power supply, as well as the various Zapfish captured by the Octarians. Your mission is to get out there, stop the Octarians, and save the Zapfish. That's it. Oh yeah. Yeah, it basically is, huh. Guys, I'm not really exaggerating in any capacity. This is quite literally just the first game single player again. Even down to number of levels, boss fights, and general runtime, which is about 3 to 5 hours. You go across stages that have levels themed around certain gimmicks, and you can collect sunken scrolls again. You can get scrolls that depict stuff like the Inkling equivalent to Instagram, an advertisement for a band's new album, a get-rich-quick scheme. No evidence of a post-apocalyptic planet Earth this time around. The devs saved the more wild shit for something else in this game. But yeah, did you play Splatoon 1 single player? You've played Splatoon 2 single player. Now, it's not like there's nothing new here. This time, you do have access to more weapons as the game progresses, and most levels will require you to play through it the first time with a specific weapon. Once complete, you can go back and replay them with other weapons, but I mean, there's not really much incentive. So I like the idea of adding more weapons, in addition to being able to upgrade them with salmonid eggs, along with this collectible called Sardinium. It's all basic stuff like making your charger charge up shots faster, or turning your hero shooter into the in-universe equivalent of a P90. That's not even a joke, like look at that, that's literally a P90. Bro is straight up packing heat in this game. But I don't think they go far enough with this idea. Levels are pretty straightforward, and while some levels were definitely designed more in line with a specific weapon, hence the requirement to play through them once with said weapon, the only thing incentivizing you to go back to these levels is to unlock these weapons in multiplayer. And yeah, I guess that is a cool incentive, but that would also require you to play the entire single player 8 times to unlock every single weapon here. That is a little tedious. Look man, my squid kit is already packing heat with a P90. I think I got all the reward I need out of this single player. If levels were a little more open, maybe you could go through different paths depending on a weapon, like maybe certain collectibles are easier to get or even required to use specific weapons, I'd give it another shot. But the levels are still pretty linear, and unlike Splatoon 1 where a lot of these level themes and ideas were still fresh, Splatoon 2 feels kinda stale by comparison. Outside of the boss fights, which I do think these are some of the best boss fights in the series, I don't really find anything particularly memorable about this single player gameplay-wise. I also feel like the multiple weapons idea wasn't really used to its full potential. It would be really cool to be able to swap weapons on the fly during a level instead of being locked to only one every single playthrough. There could be some really cool level ideas there, having to use several weapons during a level and figure out which is best suited for different situations. But as it is, it's just more Splatoon 1. It's not a bad single player, it's still alright, but this is definitely the weakest one in the series. It does still have its moments. I think the writing can still be pretty funny at times. There's a moment where towards the end, Mary packs heat with a Look, I know I have Call of Duty brain rot, but come on, she's using the in-universe equivalent of a fucking intervention and headshots Callie. That's fucking awesome. You know what else is pretty fucking awesome? This game's soundtrack. In fact, Splatoon 2 is my favorite soundtrack in the series. And some of my favorite tunes are the ones that play during the stages in single player. Getting a little ahead of myself as well, the multiplayer music in this game it slaps! Like, you hear me fucking slap in the background? It fucking slaps! The easygoing but groovy beat in Inkopolis is a great tone setter. The initial lobby music being this really in-your-face 90s-esque beat, transitioning to the smoothest matchmaking track I've ever listened to. Dude, the fucking loss music. When you lose a match, this goes harder than it has any right to. Bro, there should not be a track that makes me more excited to lose than to win in a fucking game. This track goes fucking hard. I think I would still need to listen to it more consistently to really have this opinion on it, but I feel like Splatoon 2 might be one of my favorite video game soundtracks. This soundtrack is banger after banger after banger. Squid Sisters have got nothing on Off the Hook. That's all I'm gonna say. But that's not all with Splatoon 2's single player content. About a year after launch, the series got its first paid DLC expansion with the Octo Expansion. This right here is where the real meat of Splatoon 2's single player content is. The story here opens up with Captain Cuttlefish and this Octoling that soon gets to be called Agent 8, who both wake up in an old abandoned metro. Upon exploring it, they find themselves in the Deep Sea Metro, and after answering a phone call are told they are applicant 10,008. It tells them that they will have to go to the Promised Land in order to be free, but in order to do so, they have to collect 4, things across the metro. Aboard a subway headed by conductor C. Cucumber, I see what they did there. Agent 8 makes their way through various stages in order to collect each thing. Oh, that's so dumb, but I absolutely love that. They're not even called like artifacts or anything, they're just called things. It's so dumb. I love this game, dude. As the story progresses, the two find out they're actually in a place called Kamabo Company, and find out the hard way that the Promised Land is actually a fucking blender that almost kills Agent 8 and Cuttlefish!
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a stab at
sending Octolings to the Promised Land.
But it's not all bad, as Agent 3, who was presumed missing just prior to them waking up in the metro, comes in to save the day, and the three make their escape from the company. One fight with a brainwashed Agent 3 later, and the three manage to get back to the surface and are rescued by Pearl and Marina, who have been assisting them throughout the subway. But things aren't exactly over, as a giant human statue rises from underwater, and turns out the telephone is actually a sentient AI called Commander Tartar, created by a professor 12,000 years ago to pass on human knowledge to whatever the next intelligent species would arise to be. It deems Inklings and Octarians to not be worth this knowledge and decide the next course of action was to destroy the whole fucking planet and start all over again. Bro, holy shit, we got genocide in an official Nintendo game. What the fuck, dude? With the help of Off the Hook, however, Agent 8 manages to stop the machine and they destroy the AI once and for all. Credits roll. This is a game about squid people playing paintball. There's definitely a hell of a lot more going on in this campaign narrative-wise. On top of the writing being just as snappy and funny, if not more so than the base single player, there's a lot of stuff that gets dropped here when it comes to the lore and world building. Dialogue between characters is some of the best in the series. Some of my favorites, including the back and forth Pearl and Marina have regarding their music upbringing before forming Off the Hook. Or Cuttlefish straight up saying he isn't racist because he doesn't see species. Like, yeah, okay, Gramps, let's get you back to bed. There's more that the game lets on about the world being a post-apocalyptic Earth with this AI wanting to pass human knowledge on to the next species, along with this entire company operation it's running all together. But I think what's nice about all of this is that you don't necessarily have to follow this in order to enjoy Octo Expansion. I still think this is the best kind of world building. It's all there if the world of Splatoon interests you, but there's also nothing preventing you from focusing purely on the gameplay, which receives just as much love here. And as far as gameplay goes, well, there's definitely a lot more happening here. Octo Expansion has over 100 levels you can go through, which sounds intimidating, but you don't have to play every single level to beat it. If you just play through it to finish the story, it's about as long, if not a little longer than the base campaign, but there's definitely no shortage of what to expect here. Octo Expansion is essentially a challenge mode. Stages tend to be focused on gameplay gimmicks just as much as stage gimmicks. Sometimes it's breaking every single target in a level, sometimes they're remixed boss fights, other times the goal might be to finish it using only the inkjet. There is a massive amount of variety in Octo Expansion's level design, and for the most part, it never really gets old. Not every stage type is a winner. The stages where you have to defend this orb aren't really that fun at all, and some of the 8-ball challenges can blow me with their unpredictable physics at times. Feel like I'm playing as Silver in that billiard puzzle in Sonic 06. Okay, you know what? That's actually kind of unfair. Maybe it's not that bad. But you know what's great? If you're really bad enough at certain challenges or get sick of running them, you have the option to skip them altogether, albeit with more limited rewards. Each level costs a certain amount of CQ points to do. Playing each level and finishing them will not only progress the story, but get you more points to play other levels. In addition, before most stages, you will get to pick a loadout, and the reward output you get will vary depending on which loadout you choose. Essentially, using harder weapons will get you better rewards. This is awesome because it actually gives you an incentive to replay these levels. You get more points to use for more levels, and once you beat the game, this machine that gives you even more random rewards. Levels are infinitely more replayable here, since there's a more immediate reward waiting for you. There's a lot of stuff you can unlock in Octo Expansion, from new clothing items to use in multiplayer, the ability to play as Octolanes in multiplayer when you finish it. The only way you possibly can't get these rewards is if you have Pearl and Marina help you skip these levels in order to progress the story. And I think that's a totally fair trade-off. The goal of Octo Expansion isn't just finishing it, it's also how you choose to finish it, and... Wait, what? What the hell is this? I can choose my own path to each of the 4 things? I can skip over entire levels and even subway lines to get there too if I really wanted? Holy shit, player agency in a Splatoon game? Fuck, they know, don't they? So what's with all the limitations that they put into multiplayer then? Dude, they're just fucking with us now. They know giving players freedom of choice is more fun. Why isn't the rest of the game like this? Why isn't Splatoon 3 like this since it came out after? Get over here, you little fucking little shit. I'm gonna fucking get over here. After playing through it for the first time for this video, I can easily say Octo Expansion is the best part of Splatoon 2. Yeah, it is $20, but you are getting a fantastic value out of it. And if you have the expansion pack tier for Nintendo Online, it's technically a free bonus attached to it. Not my absolute favorite single-player campaign in the series, but it definitely left a very strong impression. Now, let's move on to multiplayer. All the bells and whistles are here again. They're so here and there again that I don't really know how I can really talk about it without regurgitating everything from the last Splatoon video. Splatoon 2 is the definition of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Everything is largely the same here. Regular matches are turf wars fighting over who inks more territory by the end of the match. Splat Zones, Rainmaker, and Tower Control all return as the more competitive modes. You can buy new weapons and clothes as you level up. You'll get experience to unlock new skills on your gear that are randomized like the last game. The game used to have its own Splatfest too, like do you prefer mayo or ketchup? Or a McDonald's collab between fries or nuggets. A motherfucking race war. The Super Mushroom or Super Star from Mario. So yeah, all of it is here. And some of it is giving you just as much whiplash as the first game did. You know, of all the freaking Splatfests that they could have added, of all the things they could have done, I can't believe there was actually a Splatfest where fucking mayo won. Like, over ketchup? What the fuck is wrong with these kids? What the fuck you saying mayo is better? I'll fucking punt a child. Fuck them kids. If that sounds exactly like Splatoon 1, that's because it mostly is. But there's just enough improvements to make it, generally speaking, the better package of the 2 games. In addition to brand new weapons, we got 2 new weapon classes. There's the Dualies class, which lets you rock an akimbo setup, complete with this great dash roll you can lose exclusively on it. I love this class, dude. For more aggressive players like myself, these weapons are right up my alley. I love it when weapons or loadouts are this fast paced and reward you for keeping up and controlling that pace. The other new class is the Brella. These act kind of like slug shotguns. That's probably the best way to describe them, since they jettison a lot of ink in a straight direction. But these are umbrellas too. Holding down the fire button will unfold the umbrella and give you a shield of sorts. Hold it long enough, and the umbrella part will actually shoot off and create a path of ink in front of you. I love this class too, if for no other reason than a weapon like this can only exist in a game like Splatoon. Besides generally having more content than the first game, Splatoon 2 also brings back a lot of content from the first game. Probably to make up for the first game being on a console that Nintendo very quickly wanted to throw into the trash when the Switch started doing well. But this gave them the opportunity to improve a lot of flaws with these original maps. Camp Triggerfish is so much better in this game now that there's actual methods of getting across the map easier with ink rails and sponges. Ink rails and sponges in general have been added to a lot of the older maps to help with their flow, and generally speaking, I think they're much better for it. As a matter of fact, I'll say this right now, I think across the board, Splatoon 2 has the best selection of maps in the series so far. Not just the returning refurbished ones from 1, the new maps are a lot of fun too. They're generally bigger and a lot more streamlined than the first game, or at the very least, it really feels like it. Map flow is something really difficult to achieve or even really describe, but in the vast majority of these maps, I always feel like I not only have multiple options to maneuver and approach different locations, scenarios, and firefights, but it never feels slow enough that I can't find anyone. Splatoon 2's maps managed to allow for really creative routes and playstyles. In the first game, maps were generally pretty fun, but there was always this sense that things were a little too slow. Like, I can recall a lot of downtime I would have in matches, only inking turf and nothing else. My actual firefights weren't as pressing. Splatoon 3 has the opposite of that, where getting players straight into the action is the focus. Splatoon 2 is very balanced in how it approaches things, and after playing as much of 3 as I have, this was really refreshing and really exposed some flaws with 3 that I did not notice before. Some of my favorite new maps included Wahoo World with its theme park aesthetic and constant action, Inkblot Art Academy with its fun roots and theming, New Albacore Hotel where it feels like the routes to get around the map are endless. There isn't really a map in this game I can immediately think of as problematic or straight up not fun. Even though part of that is because I couldn't really play all the maps again. Okay, I guess we're gonna get into this now. When I said Splatoon 2 was more of Splatoon 1, I really meant it. Not just in the positives, but the negatives. And like with the positives getting incrementally better, the negatives get incrementally worse. Just like the last game, as I said, gear perks are randomized as they level up. Now, to be fair to the game, there are now easier ways to get the abilities you really want. Emphasis on the quotations in easier. In addition to re-rolling slots like the last game, you can also now scrub gear slots to get ability chunks. This will reset your gear, but give you set ability points to add onto other equipment. In theory, this is a good idea, giving players more control over what they can put on their gear. Stacking benefits doesn't seem as impossible anymore. The issue is, this costs a ton. Now first up, if you want to re-roll your slots and just randomize all your abilities over again, you gotta use your Super Sea Snails, which is a currency you can only get during Splatfests. This already severely limits how many times you can do this, but in Splatoon 2's case, where the game isn't getting support anymore, you run out of snails, you can't re-roll slots anymore. Second, scrubbing slots costs a lot of money, and since the most efficient way to scrub gear is to fully level up set gear and get 3 abilities when you scrub it, you'll have to keep leveling up gear and unlocking randomized abilities, hoping you're able to get the perks you want or need. And even then, if you want to add these to new or different gear, you'll need to have at least 10 ability chunks to pull this off. You know what this means? You will have to grind and grind and grind and grind in this game just for the chance of being able to finally get good and efficient perks on gear. Grinding in multiplayer is not the problem. The problem is that this game expects an astronomical amount of time grinding just to get gear you might want. And that's if you get lucky and get the perks you want every single time you level up your gear. If it's a random perk that you don't want, that's more time you'll have to spend re-grinding your equipment to get the ability chunks you need. I can get behind wanting to have players really work towards getting the perks that they want or need for specific loadouts or setups, but this is a horrible way to go about it. To put this in perspective, Splatoon 3 has a more improved version of this, and yet it took me several hundred hours of playing this game just to finally have a couple loadouts I fully built myself. And that was still with limitations, and that's a better system than 2. You know what else is fucking back? Map and game mode rotating. Boy, you guys know how much I fucking hated this in Splatoon 1, and somehow, it's even worse here. But they made rotations only 2 hours now instead of 4 like in the last game, I can hear you saying now. Yes, the time frame is shorter now. That doesn't mean this rotation system still isn't fucking stupid. First of all, the fact it still even exists here in the first place. There is no reason to have this. There's no reason to constantly limit players' choices and experience on this game, especially when ranked matches record your performance on a mode. But in trying to fix this issue by making the rotations shorter, this introduces and exacerbates a brand new problem. See, when you matchmake in Splatoon, you have the option of either continuing to play with that same lobby or re-queue and find a new one. So if an opportunity comes where you manage to find a really great lobby, great connection, great players, and you all keep playing with each other back to back, but it happens to be towards the end of a map rotation, well, tough shit. The game will kick you back to the main lobby to find a brand new game. This happens so often in Splatoon 2, and it's not like you can go back to those lobbies in any way. Everybody disbanded. You gotta find a brand new one. This is a problem that should not exist. Bare minimum, let us keep the same lobbies but have the maps themselves rotate. But no, it kicks you out every single time a rotation refreshes. Man, if only there was something they could do here so this wasn't a fucking problem in this multiplayer game trying to maintain a social atmosphere. I mean, it's not like every other multiplayer shooter on the goddamn planet either has map voting or rotates through every single map in its game, as opposed to only 2 at a time. Nah, that'd be fucking stupid. And also dumb. You know what else this puts more of a spotlight on? Not being able to back out of matchmaking. Splatoon 2 isn't very populated anymore. Unless you're playing at prime hours, it's going to be hard to find matches nowadays, especially if an event is going on over in 3. Which means you are going to have a lot of instances where you'll wait for a lobby to build up for 3 minutes, only for the game to kick you out if there isn't a full one. Making being able to play the actual game this conditionally and make it all in or not at all is really pushing it. This was here in Splatoon 1 as well, but it's so much more glaring here with the smaller pool of players that the game pulls from. Some of them really small. Like, you can't tell me there isn't a single other person in the world right now that's looking for standard ranked matches. And just like the first game, there's maps here I can't really talk about too much because, once again, I didn't get to play them that much. Several months ago, I had a session playing with a handful of my friends in private matches here, just so I could at least try out some of the maps that I didn't get a lot of time on. And you know what I discovered? So back when Splatfests were a thing for this game, they usually got a unique map you could play on, tied to that Splatfest. I wasn't really aware of this because I didn't really play many Splatfests in this game cycle. Like I said, I played Splatoon 2 very casually, so there was a lot of content I missed. Sucks to suck, but I guess that's the nature of these kind of things, right? Tell me why it came to my absolute shock that all of those Splatfest maps were here, and there's a whopping 24 of them. So wait, you mean to tell me that this whole time there were an additional 24 maps in this game that you simply can't play unless you do so in a private match? If this was during a Splatfest in the game's prime, fine, but Splatoon 2 isn't being supported anymore. Why are these maps also not in rotation? Splatoon 2 is absolutely dripping, oozing with content. But not only is it being drip-fed to us, there's a grand total of 48 maps, and publicly, I can only play half of them, and even then, only play 2 at a time for 2 hours in the day? What kind of bullshit is that? Why are we still so limited to only playing these core maps instead? Why is the only new game mode introduced here Clam Blitz, this weird basketball-like mode where you collect clams and have to throw them in the opposing team's basket? Little tangent here, I hate this game mode a lot, so if it shows up in rotation, that's an entire game mode I don't want to play for 2 hours straight. Why is there no way to play Splatfest stages anymore publicly? Why is the perk system in this game so randomized, grindy, and luck-based but still have such an extreme focus on competitive? Why isn't there, I don't know, fucking map voting like so many games like this have? I shouldn't have to tell you all of this when I'm just trying to comprehensively review a video game. I could tell you my thoughts on The Reef. I could tell you I had more opportunity to play anchovy games this time compared to the first game, but since they never came up in rotations that much when I played, I didn't really get a chance to play them as much. I could give you this whole spiel talking about the game's maps and what I really like about them, since I said in the Splatoon 1 video, and I'll say it again, map design and variety are some of, if not the most important factors to me personally in a multiplayer game, but I can't. That goes extra for Salmon Run. We now have this franchise's answer to a more cooperative experience. There's a new business in town, Grisco Industries. What do they want? Salmon eggs. When do they want them? Now, bitch. You and up to 3 other players can take on jobs in what is essentially a horde mode of sorts. There are 5 maps you can play on, and each one will have a variety of salmonids to fight, with weapon loadouts either being randomized or specific to 4 weapons you rotate per round. Defeating a boss salmonid will drop eggs that you have to bring to a basket. Collect enough for a round, and you'll pass. Finish 3 rounds, and you'll pass the job. Having all the players get knocked out or not collecting enough eggs will result in Grizzco pulling you out and losing the match. Now, what exactly does this give you? Points towards items. Most of the time, it's capsules that'll give you randomized loot, but there's also special gear you can unlock from playing this as well. Winning matches will increase your pay grade, which gives you more points towards this meter, but losing matches will also cut your pay grade as well, giving a risk versus reward sort of mechanic to unlocking stuff here. When Splatoon 2 first came out, I recall being way more into this than the core multiplayer. It's usually what I think of first when I think of Splatoon 2. It was a nice, refreshing change of pace from the core multiplayer. Don't remember it being this difficult, but maybe that's because most of my memories of it were from playing at easier pay grades, I don't know. It's simple but effective fun, and it's one of my favorite parts of Splatoon 2. When I can actually play it! This mode has 5 maps to it in total. They rotate here as well, because of course they fucking do. You know how long that rotation is? A couple of hours? Maybe 4 hours like the first game? If your guess was a specific number of hours, wrong! You get nothing! You lose! Good day to you, sir! Try up to 2.5 days! You heard that right. If there's a map in rotation, that is the only one you can play for a full day or 2, even in private matches with friends. You can't pick the other stages. It is one at a time for days straight. And on top of that, there are periods of time where Grizzco closes and you can't even play it. What the fuck? Why? This is so fucking stupid, dude. Why can't we just select, or, I don't know, vote for the maps we want to play on in this mode? Why is there a period of time where we can't even play this game mode altogether? And don't tell me that the time frame between isn't that long, because that time frame shouldn't even exist in the first place. If this were a more limited time thing like Splatfest, that's one thing, but why are we throwing this kind of FOMO shit into the core game for a core game mode? This is a cooperative experience that's different from single and multiplayer. This is a whole third of the game. And all of this for maps too that, honestly, upon replaying them, aren't really that great. Like, you can tell that they were experimenting with new stuff here, and while I don't think the maps are bad per se, they definitely do leave a lot to be desired. I could go on and on about this, but honestly, besides making my point on this clear several times over at this point, I just don't want to. I don't know or understand how a video game can be so full of an insane amount of content with so many great and creative ideas, but have systems in place designed to let you play with as little of that as possible. That was hard for me to excuse in the first Splatoon game, and that one at least could go behind the reasoning of this being a brand new IP and not knowing exactly yet what works and what doesn't. Splatoon 2 cannot hide behind that this time. And you want to know what the worst part about all of this is? Splatoon 2 is great! The single player may be a distraction again, but it's got some fun moments. Octo Expansion is a feat on its own, giving us some of the best and most creative level design and gameplay mechanics of the series. Salmon Run is largely a blueprint for something bigger and better, but it gets the job done as a really fun co-op mode. The core multiplayer is still a blast. It's largely the same, but it comes with great new weapons, welcome map changes and additions, and in general, the best map design in the series so far. But once again, what Splatoon 2 has in variety, it lacks in the delivery of that variety. There are 24 core maps in this game, 48 counting all the Splatfest maps, and you can only play 2 maps for 2 hours at a time. There's an overabundance of content here that, had it not been for playing privately with friends, I wouldn't have even known existed in this game. And I don't think it's a good thing when you have a game that is at its best when it allows for players to have all of this agency and then proceed to limit how much agency they're actually allowed to have. Octo Expansion is the best part of Splatoon 2, and it's not just because of the creative level design or the goofy writing, it's because so far in the series, it's the only thing Splatoon has delivered that truly gives you the freedom to approach it however you want. There are over 100 stages to play, but which ones you play, how you actually play and complete the campaign, that is entirely up to you. The more freedom and agency you give your players in curating their experience, within reason of course, the better the game is going to be and the more fun it will be to play. All of these factors could exist in Splatoon's core game. They could let you vote for maps, they could make it not as much of a ridiculous grind to get perks on equipment, they could let you access Salmon Run at any time and even play on any map, but they actively choose not to. None of this is reasonable for any multiplayer game. I really want to love the sheer amount of content Splatoon 2 has to offer, but when so much of it is intentionally handicapped like this for reasons I will never understand, it's hard for me to appreciate it. Splatoon 2 is very hard for me to recommend as a multiplayer game. How much fun you end up having with the game is entirely determinant on when the game lets you. And nowadays, it's even harder to recommend since most people are playing Splatoon 3. There can be times where you won't find matches at all because this game isn't as populated. Of course, that isn't entirely the game's fault, but even at the game's peak, this would be just as difficult to recommend as Splatoon 1. If this game is really something you're interested in, you need to have friends to play with in private matches. That's the most fun you're going to get with this game now, since it's the only part of multiplayer that lets you play it how you want to play. I think if you're going to get this game in any capacity nowadays practically, it should really only be for the single-player content, namely Octo Expansion. Because when Splatoon's creativity is left to your own devices, it flourishes with some of the best and most creative design you can find in a video game. I truly mean that. The near flawless execution of Splatoon 2's design is one of its greatest strengths, but the only way you're going to experience that is through the means that will give you the freedom to experience it in the first place. Find a used copy for cheap, buy the Octo Expansion or download it from Nintendo's online expansion, see if you can get a handful of friends to play with you privately. Otherwise, you're gonna be better off playing Splatoon 3 in most cases. That or, well, when the next game inevitably comes to the Switch too. So I did talk about this a little bit in one of my other videos where I was working on this video since last August, and I'm not gonna lie, part of the reason I kind of hyper-focused on Life is Strange the way I did was honestly because I was having a hard time getting footage for this game. Like, when I started editing this video for the past month or so, I actually ran out of footage to use. And I'm talking like unique footage. Like, most of the footage I had was on the exact same maps over and over again. So even to this point, making this video, there's still a lot of content I can't talk about it properly because the game wouldn't let me. And I won't lie, to a certain degree, I just didn't want to finish this video because I just didn't want to keep fighting the game just to experience the content it had. And frankly, if it ever gets to a point where I feel like I'm fighting a game like that, then you've lost me. I don't want to waste my time playing a game where I have to actively fight against it in order to actually have fun with it. It's so annoying to me how much of this could be fixed simply by letting players play Splatoon however they choose. There's so much untapped potential with this game, and I guess that makes it impressive that the game is as varied as it is, even with its limitations, but these are limitations that don't need to exist. I'm sure people are going to have disagreements, but I'm not changing my stance on this anytime soon. So, I'm going to close this video on a take I think pretty much most, if not all, fans of Splatoon can get behind. I don't know, Inkopolis Square is the best hub world? I mean, there's a lot of people that really like the one from the first game too, so that's probably not true. I don't know, maybe the losing track in this game is the best track in the series? Well, I don't know, Splatoon has a lot of good music, so maybe it's not that. I got it. Splat Tim is the best meme. There. That's I think that's something most of us can agree on. Splat Tim is the best meme. Also, Marina's a black woman.
What's really? You would really say it's way to game. Yes, it's clearly yelling with the change of reality. And break through. Yes,